Starting. Okay, you're listening and watching to World Crypto Network, and today we're going to talk about Golem Project again, but last time we just spoke about ideas and use cases and so on, and today we're just going to talk about tech and is it possible to build and how it is actually built. So we have here Piotr and Pavel, and they're both developers. So last time we just briefly discussed how different elements of this project are built and how they connect to each other. So first of all, I don't know, question to both Piotr and Pavel, how would you describe what it does in like a couple of sentences?
Who of us should start?
Okay, if you started, you can.
You started, yeah.
What it does in few sentences. So it's peer-to-peer network. So it connects users around the internet, and what is like the meeting point is some of them would like to have more computing power in current moment, and some of them don't use the computing power available to them. So what we are building is some kind of platform and network to exchange these resources between users in the network. I guess we're going to be too generic, I think, but
yeah, I just thought maybe one generic introduction would be good because maybe some people didn't listen to it last time. So yeah, I think someone mentioned that it's like Airbnb for computing power, basically.
Yeah,
so we can just stop being generic and talk about how you're supposed to build this thing.
Okay, so from the ground up, we need to provide a way to users to share their spare resources, not only CPU, but also hard drive and at some point internet connection. And it should be straightforward, easy configurable, and easily pluggable to some transaction platform. Right now it is Ethereum, and we would like it to be built on Ethereum. Well, it will be built on Ethereum. But it should be transparent to users what is beneath. So it is going to work on Ethereum as a transaction platform, but users shouldn't really care about it. They should just expose their free resources and possibly make money on it.
Okay, so it's not just computing power. The plan is to actually make everything shareable. If I have extra internet, I can sell it. If I have extra hard drive space, I can also sell it. So, or is it just mainly computing power?
Right now, it's mainly computing power because that's on the roadmap, and it's the easiest point to start with. But the bottom line is that we would like to build a generic infrastructure for sharing spare resources that you have in your computer, or maybe even a cluster that you own.
Okay, so we can discuss like both sort of economic level and network level, because there's obviously two different layers, and I mean economic layer of it, I think it's also very complex and how it connects to Ethereum. Oh, Eddie is here, so he can also ping some questions. Hi, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How you guys doing?
Great.
Fine.
Yeah. So how can you like how do you connect devices together in a sense that people can share their spare computing power? Let's just like focus on the computing power because that's the main thing. And well, the question is, for instance, does it already exist? Is something similar is possible?
So maybe Pavel?
You mean does any product exist that tries to do the same?
I mean, what is the closest? Yeah, what is the closest? I don't know. Before TV, there was radio or something. Like, what is the closest which allows devices to share computing
I think
power?
what is the most common approach currently is renting computer power from any cloud computing server farms and like big providers that offer like very unlimited, in a way. You can definitely order the amount of computing power that is enough for your like middle-sized company, and you just pay what resources you have used at their side. So I think this is how modern internet works on, and yeah.
But how do I actually? Yeah, how do I actually connect to it? Like, for instance, I have never done it before. It's like, because what you're describing is you have different computers connected together, and everyone can start selling their computing power, not just data centers, or maybe data centers can join as well. But currently, if let's say I order some computing power, I want to, I don't know, render a computer game, and I can't do it on my shitty little laptop. So I connect to this data center and I send them my file, they render it and send it back to me over, I don't know, over some protocol. I don't even know which one.
In this case, it's usually some kind of web interface. And I mean, if you are talking about 3D rendering and so on, and so it's not like uniform experience. You need to actually adapt to every provider user interface they offer. So how would that work for the Golem? So actually, this is task for the Golem network. The software we are developing is to how to actually select from the number of peers in the network the resources that are suitable for your job, because it won't be uniform. I mean, it's not like you can select like multiple of shitty laptops in the network, because that might be not enough. You might want to select like computers that have some minimum requirements, because with like computing power, it's not the same to connect 100 shitty hardware. It won't equal like 10 more powerful machines. So this is the one of the biggest challenges in the software, how to actually match the peers in the network.
Okay. So, but how the files are sent, it doesn't really matter. I can send them over like HTTP or FTP or whatever. It's the same protocol as the internet.
Yeah, it's similar.
The whole idea.
It matters. It matters in the way it depends, like the ratio of the data you need to send to the computing power you need for processing them. So the more data you need, it will lag you down, because you need to send a lot of data to different peers in the network. So this matter. So the best task for such networks are the task you provide like minimum data, and you would like them to run for long hours. But we try to have like make it available for more data intensive tasks, like especially 3D graphics and so on. So this is also a challenge to how to actually send, and it's usually the same data to multiple users. So this is another challenge we try to solve.
So because I had a conversation with a guy who's like knows about all this stuff, and he said this is crazy because this is just so counterintuitive. This is just going to be super slow, and it's basically he was skeptical because he said like that's an impossible thing. So what you're saying is the way to solve this problem is through building different network protocols. It's not like right now. I don't know what would be the best way to describe it. Is the question is how to send this data efficiently enough to the peers, and also figure out which to ping the peers and ask them, okay, I have this file. Are you powerful enough to do what I want you to do?
So it's, I would say it's not completely new. I mean, for example, there is like BitTorrent protocol that works in peer-to-peer networks. You can download big data even faster than from dedicated host servers. Also, there is, of course, IPFS project that has a bit different goals, but in the end, it tries to distribute the data in the way the data is available to the peers interested in them. Like they try to place them around the world in the spots that are close to the peers interested in them. So yeah, there are similar projects. I mean, projects that try to solve similar tasks. So in
that's very
terms
good
of,
because usually pure innovation usually doesn't work. It's always iterative. So if someone was trying to do similar stuff before, it's probably a good thing. Eddie, do you have any questions? Because I feel like I'm totally taking over the conversation.
Actually, yeah, we have a ton of questions. So
that's good.
All right, let me start off with some stuff.
Where do they come from? I mean, when the questions come from?
Two places. One on Reddit from a few posts we did a few hours ago, and two, they're coming live from the chat box on the right side of our live stream right now.
Yeah, I'm not watching that. Just a quick comment is like, it would be great if you pick some like technical questions, so we don't just jump from like use cases into technology and back and forth.
Yeah, I'll be asking them actually in order of how many people uploaded them, because but yeah, it's mostly technical, it seems. All right, so first question by Commodore Hodlor. As the Golem network grows, will the amount of computation I'd receive per GNT grow?
Yeah, it will.
It should, in fact.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
He's asking about GNT, so the Golem network token we'll try to distribute in the crowdfunding, and yeah, the supply of the token is like fixed. So in any way,
yeah, I think the best, probably the best plain way to answer that question is there's 1 billion GNT. So as the Golem network becomes more valuable and more powerful as more computers join, you'll be able to buy more computational power with, per GNT, because there'll be more
with less
computational power.
GNT. Yeah.
GNT will be worth more.
Yeah, with fixed supply, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. All right, cool. Second question. Golem seems focused on computational power. How will Golem price low latency / high bandwidth connections between these computational nodes?
Can you a bit rephrase that question? Low latency computations.
I can try to. I'm not really sure I understand it. So Golem seems focused on computational power. Yeah. How will Golem price low latency / high bandwidth connections between these computational nodes?
Well, at this point,
I don't get.
Yeah, you're paid for computational power right now, not for the transfer, in fact.
Yeah, I think they might misunderstand. Honestly, I'm not really sure I understand that question.
Actually, I found a good answer for the first question. It's kind of obvious. If you have, Eddie mentioned before the the Airbnb for computing power. And I was thinking, okay, if Airbnb starts giving people out a token instead of like paying for the Airbnb with your card, obviously if it's just my flat and the only thing you can rent is my flat with your token, then it's kind of shitty. But if all my friends join, then you can have a flat in Paris and London and Hong Kong, whatever, then you have more choice. So obviously your token gonna get a bit more useful. I don't know if I get it right.
Yeah, if you're talking about the whole network, yes, that's right. And you can still do some other things with GNT. Not only pay for the computation, but also use it to provide your applications, deploy them in the application registry, and interact with the transaction framework that is going to be implemented. This is important.
That's another layer. So we spoke a bit about the network layer, and I kind of left it hanging. Maybe we should wait for, if we want to come back to the network, then it will be cool if Alex can join, because he's a network guru. And then, because people asking about GNT, maybe we can just switch into the economy layer. So I had a tricky question that I couldn't answer just by reading stuff. Is how do you establish trust? Let's say we touched a little bit on it before, I think. If let's say I want to buy computational power with my GNT token, and I send Eddie my file, how do I know that that Eddie rendered it and returned it to me? Is there an escrow? How does this work? Or are there different ways it can work?
So it actually depends. So first of all, you need a way to verify that results you get from the others are actually the results you want. So this can be done in multiple different ways, and it actually depends on the computation, what kind of computation you want. So actually, what kind of task you're going to compute in the network. But for some kind of task, you can get like random sampling of the results from different peers. For example, you can like duplicate 10% of the work, and this 10% is some kind of checksum of the result. So if you find that like you're getting wrong results from a particular user in the network, so you can like try to decrease its reputation in the network, and yeah, you can detect like malbehaving peers in the network. And then it's also how to save your money, even if you detect that someone is cheating you. So this is part that application registry is going to take care of. I mean, it also depends actually on the piece of software we call the application. So this application describes like the domain of the particular task that's going in, and how to verify results. And also it can define how the transfer are working for this particular application. So for some cases, you will be allowed to create application that will like provide the escrow for that, and you will have like crypto proof of the results, and the transfer will take on only if there is proof that computation has been done and the correct results were produced. But for some other applications, you may not want that, because you can send like stream of thousands of tasks, and in case in the process of getting results from the stream, you may detect the cheating peers during actually getting results, and your loss might not be worth it to implement the escrow. So to simplify that, you can for some applications you can base on some mathematical and cryptographical proofs of the results. For some kind of applications, it will be enough to be based on peers' reputation in the network. So it's like you will be it will be fine to lose a very small fraction of the spendings.
Okay, so one, like, if let's say we take computation, the rendering as an example, because it's easy, even though I know it's like Golem is not supposed to do just rendering. So basically there is a way of having a random sample of whatever people computed for you, and then checking mathematically whether it has been done, and then automatically trigger the escrow to pay them. It's like one of the versions, right?
Yeah.
I have a question about, like, what I didn't get is when I'm ordering like a certain task, all at the same time. Let's say I ordered to render a file and like 10 people jump on it and they say, I want to do it, and they do it together, or they all do the same thing, and maybe whoever does it faster, then I'm gonna pay them. Is like how does that work?
Okay,
yeah,
go on.
Go on, Peter.
Okay, okay. So yeah, if you have a list of network nodes that would like to compute a task for you, then you agree on in a protocol on a value that you're going to pay to that node, and based on the reputation of that node, and you pick the best one for you as a requester. If you request someone to calculate a task for you, as Pavel said, we can use redundant calculations, so you can pick a few just to do the same calculation for you. And yes, you choose them based on the best match, in fact.
But it's not like torrents, because in like torrents I can just get the same file from 10 different people, just as far as I understand. It's not like I'm getting it from one person, so I have it all from my seeders. But in this case, I can just pick everyone and say, okay, you do the same job. If I want to pay more because I pay like 10 people to do the same job, then I can, like, they all do exact same job. They're not sharing it between themselves.
Well, you cannot guarantee that, but they should do this job. If you get the 10 exact results and they are valid, then okay, they shared. In fact, if they share their jobs between them, it's not in the protocol. So they are doing it not in the Golem.
Okay, so Golem only provides.
Yeah. Actually, the 10-time duplication is not a good example in this case. So I think like it's double size of the work duplication. It will be even too big. So what can do to be smart about that is actually to send like only 10% of your work to let's say 2 peers, and they will and random pick the overlap for them. So they will not know which actually piece of the work they're supposed to do is also sent to the others. So they actually have to do all the work correctly. But like, for example, if you get the results from 2 peers and 10% of the set of the results are the same, you can check this 10% if that match. But
I see.
but by like setting up like big penalties for cheating, you can like make this the system to be in balance.
I see now. So you don't make everyone compute same stuff because you want it to be computed like faster or better, whatever.
Yeah,
you
we
only
want
do it as a
duplication
security
as
check.
possible. Yes, we want a slower duplication of work as possible. It's not like, cryptocurrency network when every peer validates the transactions. You actually want to lower that as much as possible.
So it's not like gossip protocol.
I mean, gossip is used for reputation, right? If it's the same what you mean, but
okay.
But you're not disallowed to share this computation. You can, if you wish for some reason to compute something 10 times on 10 different peers, then you're allowed to do so and specify it this way. But the point is that you wouldn't like, and you would like only to do as much redundant as little redundant computation as required, nothing more. And that should also be established based on the reputation of nodes that you choose. Because the higher the reputation is, the less chance that this node will fail for whatever reason.
Okay, that's clear. I think because I had this question for a couple of weeks. How do you actually make sure that no one lies? But basically, you do this double computation just for the security measures, and you give people random bits and pieces that they don't know that they're going to compute together.
Yeah,
okay.
That's in general. Maybe I will just add, because there are different classes of computations. Pavel stated it, so let me just rephrase it. There are computations for which proof of work exists. So you can easily verify the computation, whether it was computed the right way or not. You can use this redundant computation or maybe some kind of random sampling. Monte Carlo methods are a great example here, because you can just spread the computation across the network, but you can easily verify some results on your own without computing everything. You can still check whether someone with some high probability to make the right, computed the right answer. And the last class is the generic class, when you only can compare redundant results, and based on the efficiency of your, system of verifying whether someone is trustworthy or not, which means reputation in this case.
Okay, Eddie, do you have more questions? I guess there are going to be more questions about the token, and I'm trying to.
An absolute ton. They're coming in faster than we're asking them. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna let you talk for a while. And
cool. All right. All right. So how are we securing customers' data, which is particularly important if we're doing sensitive research? So I guess this could be a real question. There is like, let's say I'm doing some research on, I don't know, any proprietary information. How do you make sure that I can't actually just take a look at it and go, okay, now I have this information myself?
I think that this is hard, and this might not be possible for like majority of computation tasks you want to send to the network. So if you want someone to compute based on your data, you will need to unveil this data to the other peers, and you will not know who will compute that. And so if you need to protect your data, I think Golem network it's not for you at the moment. So you would be able to establish similar network like in your private company, in private network, like private Golem network, to utilize the software and have the same framework in private networks, but in vast majority of computing problems, you will need to unveil the data for that.
Okay, So I
Yeah,
guess
but,
if anybody does want to do secure stuff, they
At
should.
some point, we're going to allow requesters to choose the nodes that are doing the computation. So if you know that a specified node is, for example, a gateway to a cluster that you trust, then if you send this task to this cluster using Golem, then it's guaranteed up to the point that you trust this cluster that it won't be revealed. So just as if you made an agreement with someone externally.
Right. All right,
So
cool.
can you also chop your data into like meaningless pieces and send it to everyone, and then because it's random, you will hope that this particular person doesn't know you in person and doesn't know that you do some, I mean, it's what it's called, security by obscurity, right?
Well,
maybe it's not the best.
You can chop your data, but at some point, someone has to gather all the data. And during the computation, the node that is doing the computation is going to have all the data together in one piece. So it would be easily inspectable.
Not if you chop it up into pieces and just say, okay, I'm doing like an awesome, yeah, that's true. Maybe for some things you can do it, and for like, yeah.
It really depends on actually the problem you want to solve. It's hard to generalize that and talk like abstract computation. But for example, for like 3D rendering and any like graphics rendering, to render even a small piece of the scene you want to have, you actually probably need almost all the 3D model for the current task. It's actually much easier to like send all the data and ask to compute like very small part of the view, instead of like trying to create a software that will like also like you said, chop the data itself, because this, I think it's hard to do it like in the automatic way.
Yeah, so this kind of safety can only be possible when this ecosystem evolves and you have proper reputation. But it's very social. It's like having trading with people on eBay. Basically, if you're new, you don't have any reputation, or like local Bitcoins and stuff. So if you don't know this person, you trade with it first time, maybe it's going to screw you over, or maybe it's going to be stressful. So just when the system is new, you have no idea, maybe people going to like steal your game and sell it.
Yeah, that's right. And it also depends like what level of trust do you need. And yeah, so
well, I think that
if you really need to protect your data, I know you're a bank and you want to compute your client's account somewhere, it's probably not the best way to send it to the public network.
All right, cool. All right, somebody wants to know what's the purpose of adding that 0xEFC818A8, that string to the transaction, and what happens if somebody forgets to add it?
What happens is like the transaction will be rejected, and you will get your ethers back with like lowered by the transaction cost. So this is needed, especially. So there's a common mistake that people make in Ethereum network. Maybe this has not doesn't apply to Bitcoin, for example, but is when you send the ethers from the account actually you don't have control of. So for example, you can like withdraw from the exchange and ask the exchange to actually transfer it to the Golem network token contract. And what happens then is like you will not be the owner of the tokens. Actually, the exchange will be, because the exchange has a private key for the account they send it from. So we were thinking about like a small protection for that. So actually, this 4 bytes that are included in transaction comes from Ethereum ABI for contracts, and it's actually the ID of the one of the functions in the contract, which is called create, and that function creates tokens in the exchange of Ether that is coming in the transaction. So this is not random value, but it could have been. It doesn't really matter. But including any data in the transaction protects from sending on, especially for like exchanges, shapeshift, and so on. When you may lose your tokens, or some other entity will be the owner. So yeah, this like lowers your user experience, but yeah, it gives an additional protection.
Well, this is really cool, because even though when people distribute tokens, they always say, please don't use like random wallets, online wallets, whatever. People still do, and then they devastate because they can't. So they don't use like my Ether wallet. They just use some random stuff.
My Ether wallet is fine, but you need to also like save the it is usually called like key file with password protected private key that comes from Ether wallet. So I think it can generate one for you, but yeah, please remember to save it in some safe place. Make a copy of it. Yeah, but this is the only like proof that you are the owner of the account you send the Ether from.
Yeah, but hopefully people are going to get more used to it, as there will be more opportunities to get tokens, and user
experience should also like improve in the future. For example, you could have create like application for Mist browser, and when there's a button that you can buy tokens, and then we ask for your password protected account. But yeah, this is coming in the near future, but it's not ready yet, unfortunately.
Cool. All right.
Eddie, any more questions?
Yeah. So brought to you by Carl's Jr. How can Ethereum dApps request Golem computation? And they want an example of Ethereum contract outsourcing computation to the Golem network with a look at the methods and the ABI.
This is, I think, in general, like question how to access the external world from the closed system of Ethereum contracts. So it won't be easy, but there exists projects like Oracleize, when you can send your requests to some kind of gateway that is like half also a Ethereum contract, but there is another like external service that is watching this contract and tries to perform some other unspecified task outside the Ethereum, and will like send you a response after it finished. So actually, yeah, Golem can have the similar gateway like this one, like to have a gateway contract in the Ethereum that will like, when you can send requests for computation, and that computation will be done in the Golem network, and then the result will be sent to this gateway contract back, and this gateway contract will actually call your contract back with the answer.
Oh, actually, Alex just joined us.
Hey.
Which is cool.
Hey,
Hello.
that's
Hey.
interesting.
Yeah, I actually, I just had a question, like after the question that Eddie just asked about using Golem for other Ethereum dApps. So I had a question whether it matters, like whether you build, like, is there any difference for people who just want to build an application which uses Golem for their business logic, whether it makes sense more for people who build stuff on Ethereum, or whether it doesn't really matter. It can be just a normal old school application which will be using Golem.
Well, in fact, it should be a normal old school application with additional thin layer that allows it to be used in Golem, provided that this application can be distributed. Because if it's a serialized application, then there's no point in distributing it. But if it's application that can be computed efficiently in this environment, then after adding a thin layer that just allows it to be run on a Golem network, it should be. It's not specific to blockchain or any such technology.
Okay, Eddie, I have a question for you about maybe picking a question which is asking something about network protocol, because I know that Alex is knowledgeable about this stuff and he just joined.
Well, the network protocol. Let me see if I can find anything.
Or just pick something else. Just a suggestion.
I mean, I'm going to make sure that we hit every single one of the questions. A quick one: did we compensate crypto for giving investment advice on Golem? No, we did not. And actually, there's some comments on his YouTube video from us about a few things he got wrong. So just FYI on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can I find? Oh, go ahead.
That video looks like it was based on a really old blog post. He seemed excited though, still.
Yeah, I mean, we're not unhappy that he made that video. It's pretty rad, but he didn't get everything right, and we did not give him any money.
Oh, I have to comment on that. These guys who are now online, they didn't give me any money either. So I'm like impartial.
Yeah, that's pretty important to point out. Okay, cool. Where can I find the address of the deployed contract with verified source code? I believe we're publishing that, I think, today, aren't we?
Yeah, we do. I think in 1 hour or two.
Yeah, so just like stay tuned on the subreddit, on the Slack, on the blog. It'll all go live there.
Yeah, it'll be posted everywhere. And Etherscan will have the code and the API and the ABI, right, Pavel?
Yeah. I will send also the source code, 3D source code, the Etherscan, and it will be verified by the engine.
Cool. One actually fascinating question by Just Bitcoin. So how are users protected legally if someone's writing an illegal video of, like, say, murder or child porn on the network?
Was that a real question?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody's legally protected from that kind of stuff.
No, I mean the requester. I mean the providers. Because technically, let's say that I was rendering child porn on the network, right? Of course, I did something wrong, but also the requester's machines now have child porn on them.
I mean
the provider's machines.
What about the internet service provider and all of the routers? You know, and I mean, is Linksys responsible because that data went over your router? Oh, sorry, Cisco bought Linksys, but I think that the users won't know what's on their machine, so and it'll even be difficult for somebody else to figure out, like, which machines did those computations.
All right, cool. So the answer is kind of just users aren't liable.
No, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's different for every jurisdiction and country in the world. This is something new. I mean, what if Bitcoin is used, to assassinate somebody? Like, what about the Bitcoin miners? Do they get in trouble? You know, I don't know. It's going to be that's going to be an interesting thing to see unfold. But obviously, you know, there's no implied legal liability.
Yeah, and just like, you know, Satoshi Nakamoto can't stop anybody using Bitcoin to do anything, really. We can't really stop anybody from, you know, rendering an illegal video on the Golem network.
Yeah, but it also applies to cafes which have internet, right? You can come
Right.
and connect to the Wi-Fi and, I don't know, download child porn or something. So I'm not sure if they're liable. I know that in some countries they set up filters so you can't use torrents and all this kind of stuff. But it seems like it's evolving. Then maybe you can use a VPN or something.
Yeah, and I mean, some countries don't care. Like some countries don't have laws that respect copyrights of copyright laws of other countries. So I mean, like Europe doesn't have the same patent system as the U.S. So if you build and deploy something in Europe, you know, some U.S. company can't say, "Oh, I have a U.S. patent for that, so I'm going to come into Europe and, you know, sue you." So with this like universal peer-to-peer network, you know, that's going to be, you know, that might be something that may be a challenge for software developers, but it's already a challenge for software developers today. So
Cool. Peter, I got one for you. Is deploying Docker containers on Golem a possibility in the future?
Is deploying Docker containers possibility in future?
Yeah.
Well, when we have the application registry, then definitely. Right now it's Dockerized, so it's going to stay that way for a while, or maybe indefinitely. So yeah, it will be possible.
Cool. Awesome.
But of course, it has to be in some broader picture, and the picture involves application registry. So you won't be able to do it just because you would like to, but you have to interact with the network somehow using GNT.
Right. Right. Cool. All right. That one we already answered. Oh yeah. So okay, this one, I guess this one's for me. By Andreas H. He says, I found this project by accident and got dragged in by the white paper. What are you guys doing with your marketing at the moment to drag potential investors? And we're not dragging them in, but we're tracking them. And says there's almost no buzz at the moment. I guess my best counter to that is that pretty much every post we make on our Ethereum gets to the top. I'm not sure where you found us. We've been on a few blogs right now. Of course, we have people making YouTube videos about us. But I would say that most of the Ethereum network is pretty excited about us. Evidence being that whenever we post on their network, on their Reddit, we make it to the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, I can add that I've personally been to several conferences and people have heard of Golem before I told them about it. So, you know, it may be, I think Golem was, you know, was talked about at DevCon a while back. So, you know, I guess it's something people have been waiting for. So we don't have to create too much noise, I think.
Yeah.
And
we are
Alex himself was dragged into it, right?
Yeah, actually, you came into
kicking and screaming.
A Slack post, didn't you?
I can't remember. No, well, Piotr presented the nano payments, or Pavel. I'm not sure who presented that, but they presented at DevCon 1, and I've kind of followed it since then. And then, the DAO stuff happened, and I was like, yeah, like this would be a cool project to see built. And it just went from there.
Cool. All right. From Jane Doe, will Golem require third-party software to be developed independently before specific use cases like complex scientific calculation, machine learning, blah blah, are able to be utilized? And the answer there is yes. So we're going to open up the application registry, which will work kind of like an app store for, you know, iPhone or like the Play Store for Android, whatever. At which point anybody can kind of configure Golem to do anything and get paid in any way they wish, and then anything that can be done on Golem, in theory, you know, may or will be done.
I would like to add one more sentence to that. I think it should be pretty easy to port some already existing software to run on Golem, and you can usually done it by actually sending the software with to the network itself and ask to be run on the machine to run on. So this is the way we're doing that for 3D graphics rendering, when actually we distribute the Docker image that is able to run the rendering, and it might not be universal for any software, but if you have a piece of software, it doesn't even have to be like open source. You can just build a binary, put that in the Docker, and ask to peers to run your Docker and task within it.
Cool.
Yeah. The only obstacle is convincing the providers to deploy that application, and chances are you'll do that by getting trusted validators to sign off on it being safe to run for the providers.
Providers are people who have the spare computational power.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I guess
I will add something to that question because I think that's one point missing still. When you deploy something to an application registry, you will also be able to interact with the way that you're being compensated for it. Because if you're provided software, then you may wish to get a fee for every time it's run. And it will be up to you to specify the way you're getting paid for your software being used on the network.
Cool. Okay, Oleg, I don't know how to say your name, dude. But he's asking, what is the deal with the 5% that investors get? That's not happening anymore. So that's something we dropped quite a while back for various reasons. One of the main ones being that if we were to take a 5% cut off the network, then somebody would just fork our code because it's completely open source to remove that cut, and then make a Golem that doesn't have a 5% cut, and there would be no more us. So yeah, that's just not a thing anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, if there's a request for it and a demand for it, GNT, like with the transaction framework, it may be possible that somebody can do that with their own application. But it's not baked in that way.
Yeah. Okay. So just Bitcoin is asking, what can various specifications laptop earn or computer earn? The answer there is, I mean, we're not deciding what the price on the network is. It's a completely free and it's completely not completely close to perfect competition market. So how much power your computer can earn is dependent on how many requests there are, how many providers there are, and how powerful your computer is. We actually don't really have any ability to give you an answer on that. Okay, Stray Bengal Tiger says, is there some kind of end-to-end encryption, or is all the data public? I believe, did we answer something like this just now? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's going to be progressively developed over time. There should be end-to-end encryption between the peers, and then as far as the data itself, you have this weird problem that you want public nodes to process your data, so they have to decrypt it first, and chances are they'll want to get paid to have to decrypt it before processing it. So again, that's going to be a thing that the network will have the utility to encrypt some things, like some messages for validation will have to be encrypted just for security. So the cryptography is going to be there, but it's going to be up to the software developers as to where and how and if they encrypt payloads that for the computational tasks.
Cool. All right. So this is actually one that keeps coming up, and so it'd be good to just answer it live right now. Can I use Golem to mine other cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, you can. But actually, I would be a bit skeptical about that, because when mining cryptocurrency, you really want like the last bit of efficiency for software you're running on, and yeah, I'm not sure like sending to general purpose network for computation would be ideal. But yeah, you can run your miner on other computers, and yeah, it will work.
Yeah,
I mean, the miner software on other machines, and they can like send the results back to you, and you can be like the guy who gets the reward for mining.
yeah. Somebody, I remember with Bitcoin, somebody built a peer-to-pool, and it's like a decentralized Bitcoin mining sidechain. It's essentially a sidechain, and so I expect that that's the kind of thing that you could build with Golem, and you'd essentially it'd be like this weird sidechain built off of Ethereum that mines Bitcoin, right? But I mean, there's a lot of work involved in that, and the large mining farms, they optimize everything. So that might be an interesting thing for just people just do it when their machines are idle, but it's a lot of work to build that, and maybe not a lot of profit because it's just zero sum. So the providers will want to make a profit, and the requesters will want to make a profit. And with proof of work mining, there's there's no margin in the middle. So if both sides want to make a profit, somebody's going to have to take a loss if they want to mine currency on something like Golem. And and I think in this case, it's easier to, like, if you wanted to try and profit from doing that, it would be more cost effective to go through centralized providers. But that's just an opinion, though.
Yeah, one other way you can look at it is that with Golem, if you would really like to set up a mining pool, first off, you need to host a host direct mode, which is described in the white paper when you run your computation directly on the host, not Dockerized and not virtualized. And if it is possible, then you can use Golem just to set up your own mining pool on your own cluster, so that you have the infrastructure and you can switch it easily. And that can make some more sense, not to use it directly as a distributed mining pool. Just to use it as a building block for your infrastructure, which is zero conf almost for you.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what people might do is they might somehow integrate their mining pool that they already have with Golem, so that if there's requests on Golem that are more profitable than something, than what they have going on their mining pool, then they would direct that part of their mining pool to the Golem task instead of off the mining. So I imagine that there will be some integration, but I think it'll be the other way around. I think that miners will figure out how to use Golem to maximize profit from their hardware, rather than figuring out how to use Golem to maximize their crypto mining operation.
Cool.
I have a question actually related to that. Two questions. One is, like, if it's not for mining, that may be a very weird one. Can Golem be used to, let's say I want to run a consortium chain and somehow it's proof of work? So can I ask people to do that, or it doesn't make any sense? Because it's not a lot of computation. Like,
Well, it's sort of redundant, because if the consortium chain already handles the mining part of it, so first, if it's a consortium chain, you probably don't want to use proof of work anyways. It's just like a waste.
Yeah.
Really, you just use proof of stake. I mean, you could. I think in like the fourth release, the final release, like if and you know, we reach the full cap and everything. In the final release, you know, you may be able to pay to have like this microservice where, you know, at least X number of nodes on the Golem network are always running, you know, your consortium chain. And as long as you just keep feeding them, you know, GNT, Golem tokens, they'll keep on running the nodes. And so, you know, maybe you could do that, but why you would do that, you know, I don't know. It sounds like a lot of work, but it could be done.
Yeah, just to have a lot of nodes. But and another question is, I think I asked it before, but I don't remember what the answer was. Will people be able to fire up the old gear that they used to use to mine, and it's all unused now? Would they be able to fire it up and join Golem and make use of it?
Yes, of course, provided that their gear, there are requesters who would like to compute something. Yes, but yeah, definitely they can attach it to Golem network, and if there are enough tasks on the network and their reputation is high enough, then yeah, they will be used. And you can actually make them more usable by making a price lower. You offer old gear, but for a lower price. So if someone doesn't care about the efficiency that much, but knows that you have high reputation and you are trustworthy, then your gear may be chosen by requesters.
Cool, because lots of people have this garbage from like old, good old days when people used to mine Bitcoin at home. Okay, back to Eddie.
That's actually that's pretty much all of it. There's one last one by Gavin who's asking, you know, can Golem be used to run remote desktop services like having a VPS type thing, or is it exclusively for computing tasks, imaging and video? But I believe that's covered by the application registry. Once that's published, it can be used for anything that anybody wants to make it used for.
That's an interesting question. Remote desktop services would imply that you can sort of run, you know, like boot a Windows node and then log into it remotely. And initially, I don't think that would really be possible because, you know, there isn't a Tor-like routing protocol for, you know, for point-to-point connection. So in other words, if you convince some random Golem node to run a Windows instance and you want a remote desktop into it to give you its IP address and port and open the port on the firewall and things like that, and you know, that probably wouldn't be very good for privacy. So maybe if there's some improvements to the peer-to-peer network, that might be possible. But that sounds like something that, you know, that might be built alongside Golem to like obfuscate the nodes, obfuscate the location of the nodes for external connectivity like that. So in other words, no.
Well, not on the open network, but maybe if you'd like to use Golem as an infrastructure for your private network, then it can make sense. But just inside the network. Excuse me?
Do you mean like if you were to fork Golem's code?
No. Just keep it well. For example, you have a company in which you would like to set up something, I don't know, ad hoc. Yeah,
I think the question was more or less like, can I run my virtual private network on the Golem. That would be very, very interesting to think about how to do it. But yeah, that it's technically probably very difficult, like to abstract the peer-to-peer network and yeah, to be visible like direct connections between computers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it'll have that, like it'll be possible to do that, but it'll be up to like Piotr was saying, like if you have your own infrastructure and you deploy something and you know that it's going to get deployed to your infrastructure, or you have knowledge that it was deployed to your infrastructure, then you have enough information to figure out, to be able to connect to it. But launching a VPS, virtual private server or something like that, setting up a virtual private network against a different infrastructure, that may be, Golem number 5, because that would require custom either and more improvements to the peer-to-peer network, or people feeling very comfortable about Golem, which they should, but configuring virtual private networks on demand on host machines is really not very reliable, and it's even not very reliable with Docker. Like Docker has a lot of challenges with IPv6 and network address translation and things like that. So given the diversity of networking environments, this is something where you could likely leverage Golem to do this with your own infrastructure. But if you wanted to do it with someone else's infrastructure, you'd probably have to work with them. So if there's University A and there's University B, and University A says, oh, I want to deploy this on your network with Golem, but we need this custom network configuration, then University A and B might get together and build the software to integrate with Golem in such a way where that software can configure the network on both sides, rather than relying on Golem to do something like that. So fortunately, like on one hand, Golem's universal and it's a peer-to-peer network, so almost anything is impossible. But on the other hand, there's a lot of things like this where I don't think Golem will necessarily do it, but the software will be able to pick up where where Golem can't provide something in a universal way. Sorry, that was a super long answer.
No, it was good. Eddie, do we have more questions? You said there was a ton of it. Otherwise, I'm gonna ask more.
I do believe that I've covered almost all of them. Just quick. Oh yeah, we have a couple more. I think so. At least 1 second. Yeah, that one's done. Oh yeah, so yeah, I think this is the last one. By Reserver. Hey guys, can we agree to continue researching and developing an appropriate use for GNT? As investors, we get that you need approximately 10 million to finish development. That's fine. However, I'm not convinced that using GNT as a payment rail, essentially a way to send money akin to Ripple, is the best use for GNT. It could have more utility as a reputation token or other use in your network, and I would like to see us considered more deeply before a final decision. What are your thoughts on alternative uses for the GNT token?
I think that's what's intrinsically useful. I think that is the intrinsic utility of GNT. Is it can be used as a payment rail for the computations, or rather, it is used as a payment rail for the computations. But between the transaction framework and our ability to give Golem tokens additional functionality, should we develop something like like a robust reputation system, which is in the roadmap, then the tokens which are associated with an account that's a part of that reputation functionality, those tokens are going to have that functionality. Or if the tokens are committed to the computations required for some piece of software that connects up with the transaction framework to pay the developers in some other means, then they have that additional functionality as well. So I think that as far as this person asking about research, I think that the first couple of releases, we get functionality going, and in parallel to that, that is what we will be doing. Research, not necessarily on what can be done with the token, but research on how to ensure that the token does what the software developers need it to do, so that the incentivization mechanism between the providers, the software developers, and the requesters, so that whole ecosystem works out for all involved.
Cool. All right, one last one that I can answer really quickly. Somebody's asking, how do we make sure the code running on the network is safe? For example, you could just use it to spread viruses. I believe the answer to that is one, all computations on the network are going to be sandboxed, except for in the far future a few that when we open up some stuff may not be, but those will be very heavily validated by the validators, which is number two. There's a whole class of users called validators who will look at everything that's published on the Golem network in the application registry and add it to whitelist or blacklist. And if you want to play it safe and not down something that can give you a virus, you just run stuff that's been whitelisted.
Yeah.
There was a question about applications, right? But the data itself that people are rendering, can it be also dangerous?
I mean, if it is, then it should be blacklisted. And so the way it works is, let's say I publish something to the application registry. A validator can take a look at my stuff. Actually, all validators can look at my stuff. It's as many as they want, and they can say either this is untrustworthy, blacklist it, in which case, unless somebody is intentionally wanting to run it, nobody will run it. Or they can say, no, okay, this is good. There's nothing dangerous about it. Whitelist it, and as long as you trust that validator, then you run their list.
Yeah, exactly.
No, what I meant,
right,
what I meant is, basically not the apps, because there are validators for apps, and apps going to go on the app registry. But what about when, let's say, I pick up a task and I connect to the peer, and then I say, okay, I'll do your job for you, and then this peer gonna send me some stuff which gonna like destroy my computer or something. Is that possible?
Yeah, you're actually doing that every day, opening the web page. So you don't only
that's true.
You don't know, and your browser protects you for that. So actually, because there's also like validator's responsibility to accept like unknown data in the software. So yeah, so it's up to software, actually the application software to be sure it will not misbehave on like malicious data.
All right, cool. And that's all the questions I have, unless somebody starts asking new ones in the chat box. So yeah.
Okay, so we answered all the questions. I don't know if you guys want to cover, because we sort of spoke about a bunch of different layers. There is like network, there is economy, which is on Ethereum. There is application registry, and what else is there? There is a reputation system as well. I don't know if you guys wanted to sort of describe briefly all these different elements, and maybe how, what would be the I know that people can read it in the white paper and on the site, but what are the elements which will, like, is the application registry is one of the first things that should be implemented, or is it something else?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
No, I was asking about all these different elements, right? Reputation. Yeah, my question was a bit long. Reputation, network, economy layer, which is Ethereum, and application. No, wait a second. I'm getting lost there. So the peer-to-peer network is like the most basic important thing, because nothing going to work without it. Then there is an application registry. Then there is a reputation and economy layer. So I was wondering what would be the first steps? Like the first, is it what the Golem going to look like? Is it the peer-to-peer network plus the application registry plus the Ethereum stuff? Like what would be the first iteration?
Well, I think the most important part is everything that's together, not necessarily one component. So if we have the computations and we have the peer-to-peer network, but we don't have, application registry or reputation, or whitelisting system, then then safety is an issue. And then if we have those things, but then we don't have the sandbox environment or the task dispatching, or the software written that determines how to break up the tasks, then those other components aren't useful either. So, I think the first version will have the basic, initial, and static functionality of each of those components, and then as the new releases come out, those new releases will open up each component to be more useful for the software developer. So I don't think that there's one particular thing that's useful or that should be developed first. Instead, what Golem is doing, and what I think is a good approach, is they're starting out with the use case of video rendering and other basic computing tasks, and starting out with the use case, and then building this peer-to-peer network and the task framework and everything to facilitate that. So I think that approach, like building that first, is important, and that seems to be reflected in the roadmap.
Yes, exactly. This is what the Brass Golem is about. The one missing point is the local verification that is going to be implemented in terms of probabilistic verification of rendering tasks. And I think that apart from what we plan to implement first, because as Alex said, we're going to implement all those components most of the time in the same time, and just to connect them into something useful, we also have to build a community for this solution, so that we have to reach out to people interested in rendering and show them that there is a solution that they can use, because we're going to make something maybe basic, but it should be production ready after the first release. I mean the Brass Golem, which is the first milestone.
Golem.
Yeah.
Okay. So we might maybe slowly wrap up, unless anyone has anything they want to talk about, because I think we've been on air for like over an hour.
Yeah, wrapping up is good, because we're all I think quite anxious to deploy the
That's true.
deploy the code.
And it's already 30 a.m. here, so
I can just ramble on forever, Okay, so thanks everyone. I think this is it. yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Bye.
having us.